miles an hour. Tonight, cloudy. The temperature will be 52. Good sleeping weather. The wind will be out of the northeast at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Now, Wednesday, that would be tomorrow, mostly cloudy and breezy with scattered showers. Temperature 59. The wind out of the northeast at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Now, of course, at sunset tonight, a very sacred holiday will take place, Yom Kippur. For all of those celebrating the holiday, we wish you our very best here at Radio Westchester. Let's get to that local news right now. The pastor of the Catholic Church in Marrone has been accused of abusing a child decades ago. Monsignor James White has been placed on administrative leave at St. Vito Most Holy Trinity Church because of the accusation, which he denied in a letter to parishioners last week, and we didn't have that information yesterday. He said, "I was profoundly shocked, disturbed, and saddened by this news." Cardinal Timothy Dolan sent a letter to parishioners on October 3rd about White's ministry being, quote, temporarily restricted. White said in his letter that he was informed on September 26th of an allegation of inappropriate conduct on a minor. He said it dates back to the 1980s when he was the Dean of Discipline at Cardinal Hayes High School in the all-boys school in the Bronx. He said, "I can assure you that I have never been inappropriate with a minor at any time during my almost 37 years as a priest, and I ask you to believe in my innocence." White said he trusts that his name will be cleared. And Monsignor Donald Dwyer, pastor of the Church of Resurrection in Rye, will oversee St. Vito Most Holy Trinity in the meantime. This according to Cardinal Dolan. We thank Lord for that story. George Grogan was served with divorce papers on September 26th. Now, 2 days later, his wife's body was found in his vehicle near the Bear Mountain Bridge. This really a continuation of a story 2 weeks ago now. This out of Lohud Today. Audrey Grogan filed for divorce on September 12, according to Dutchess County Supreme Court records, which show an affidavit of service to George Grogan dated September 26th at 6:13. Grogan was found dead in a wooded area east of the Bear Mountain Bridge on Tuesday. The 59-year-old town of Poughkeepsie man's identity was confirmed by the Westchester County Medical Examiner's Office. Town police have not commented on the nature or circumstances of either death. The department is leading a criminal investigation into the incident, but have said there is no time frame for when details will be released. As you know by now, Grogan was missing on September 27th. The day town police received a call from one of his sons claiming George said he had killed Audrey Grogan, and that's pretty much it. Sad story that I've always said, you get upset, the relationship breaks up, you don't want to really deal with it anymore, and you want to take the old dirt nap. Leave the woman alone, fellas, please. Come on. Your pain will stop. You won't even know you were ever alive. Trust me. All righty, let's move on. It was shortly after 4 a.m. Monday that Dr. Greg Semenza received the call. That is the call from the Nobel Committee informing him that he had won the 2019 Nobel Prize for Physiology of Medicine. Now, a call in the middle of the night is a pretty scary thing, but nonetheless, his first instinct after he hung up the phone and told that he was getting the Nobel Prize was to call his mother in these parts over in Tarrytown. After several tries, Semenza, a Tarrytown native and 1974 graduate of Sleepy Hollow High School, finally got through. Anyway, the Academy recognized Semenza, 63, the C. Michael Armstrong Professor of Medicine at Johns Hopkins, for studies on how cells respond to low oxygen levels. The research is believed to have the potential to result in treatment for a variety of illnesses, including blood disorders, blinding eye diseases, cancer, diabetes, and more. Good for him. And he credits his Sleepy Hollow High School biology teacher, the late Dr. Rose Nelson, for sparking his interest in science. Always nice when one of our own, how'd you get in here? What'd you sneak in?
I snuck in. I'm so small you can't even tell.
Stay there.
Huh?
Let me. What you walking under the door? I'm reading this story about Nobel Prizes. How are you?
Not bad. I'm looking at this over here. I'm cracking up laughing. He has a gigantic thing that's bigger than his head of an energy drink. So it's not just, you that's got to be the non-human that's okay with getting up so early with that energy.
Do you see this little switch? Do you see this little switch? You're about to be turned off till I finish the news. Melissa Longke's is with us this morning, and I must say we are happy to see you. We'll be right back with her, but we're not. We're going to finish the news now. I did not see you. So you don't know how much I concentrate when I do this stuff.
That's scary.
It is scary, isn't it? See, and there's I finally figured out after the camera's in that little loop thing. So anyway, you stay right there. Oh my goodness, she snuck in remember in Goodfellas, like impending doom. All right, if you didn't get your property tax rebate check, don't worry, Melissa Longke. The state is still sending hundreds of thousands more. Since August, more than 1.4 million tax relief checks have been mailed to New York homeowners whose income was less than $275,000. Well, we ought to get rebates, that's for sure. Separately, 390,000 checks have gone to homeowners under the STAR program for new homeowners since the mid-2015 season. Between both programs, the State Department of Taxation expects more than 2 million checks will ultimately go out this fall. So if you haven't gotten your check yet, be patient. After all, with all Melissa's great income, she teaches people. Did I hear a dog? Or was that you?
That was me.
What kind of noise was that?
That was a laugh.
That was a laugh?
That was a chuckle. I guess I have a dog-like chuckle.
Woof. All right, stay. It's amazing. I love when she comes in here. All righty. The next piece to the long-stalled Gateway jigsaw puzzle is getting put into place with the naming of a board of members to oversee the tunnel construction agency. This one's going to take forever. This comes about 3 months after Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York and New Jersey Governor Phil Maloney signed legislation. Did I say Maloney? Phil Murphy? She's got me all upset. She snuck in and scared me. Signed legislation that created Gateway Development Commission, a bi-state agency that can receive federal funding. They're going to spend more of your money, but this is supposed to be good. The 3 New Jersey nominees are Janet Bauer, Balpreet Grinbol-Virk, and Jerry Zarrow. He is the current chairman of the Gateway program. Anyway, this is needed to get some of these tunnel projects done. And yet another agency, let's hope it gets managed better than, let's say, the MTA. A quick turn to sports before we talk with Melissa, and later on we'll come back with national and regional news. Well, at every turn where the Minnesota Twins were a hit or a pitch or a play away from breaking through on Monday night, the Yankees turned them back. It just continued the Yankee narrative of everything coming up aces against the Minnesota Twins. They scored on a 2-strike hit when the Twins' third baseman moved a few inches away from the line. The poor Twins just couldn't do anything right. At any rate, the Yankees, winners, they are on their way, defeating the Twins 5-1. A 5-out, by the way, closeout by Aroldis Chapman, the 100-mile-an-hour relief pitcher. And you hockey fans, of which Melissa is one. A trade last night. $3 million in cap space is really what it was all about. The Rangers traded forward Vladislav Namestnikov. Not a bad player, but never really got rolling with the Rangers. He to the Ottawa Senators, according to his agent Dan Milstein. In exchange, the Blue Shirts received the rights to defenseman Nick Ebert and a 2021 fourth-round pick, although the Rangers had to hold on to $750,000 of his pay. He is currently in the second year of a 2-year pact that pays him $4 million annually. Now, Vince Micagliano, a guest on this program, and our man covering the Rangers, said, or at least Milstein told Vincent, Vlad is extremely happy, adding they were absolutely not surprised by the trade. Namestnikov, 26, was acquired by the Rangers from Tampa Bay as part of the Ryan McDonough deal. He was pointless in 2 games and pretty much didn't score a lot of points when he was with the Blue Shirts. It is 6:20. Today's program is brought to you by United Hebrew, or supported by, I should say, by United Hebrew Aging Issues Management and Plug-in Virtual Reality. I'm Bob Marrone. This is Radio Westchester, broadcasting live from the station at the New Rochelle train station. And once again, for all those of you who tonight will be celebrating Yom Kippur, we wish you our very, very best. Remember, it's sunshine. You got to get home. So get to work early so you can get home and be with your families where, quite frankly, on a holiday, you belong. So I'm over here making sure that we're recording these shows. I had to press a button. Good morning, Melissa Lonkeys.
Oh, wow. You said it right this time. I'm very impressed.
What did I
You've
say?
only known me for how many years now?
Well, what do you mean, tadpole? What do you mean I got it right?
You know how I always correct you with that.
You always, you're a teacher. You're a pedantic. Let me see. Is that a notepad?
It is. Look, it's a
It's
baby
the
binder.
size- Of course
Look at
it
this.
is.
It's adorable.
You even have all these little things.
How
too.
cute is this thing?
Is this?
It actually has the paper gets refilled and everything. It's like a 3-inch binder. It's adorable.
It sort of fits the whole scaled down version of you, doesn't it? Do you have like a tiny little pen?
I really swear this is why you like having
Do you have
me
a
here.
little tiny car?
No, I have a big car that makes me feel big and tough.
How do you get in it?
I climb up. Yes.
Do you fly it and land like it's an aircraft carrier? How are you, Melissa?
good. I'm
You've been
good.
busy. We love when you come in here in the morning.
You know, I'm a little worried for you that
I
you
love
didn't even
this
realize that I was coming in, huh? That's scary.
Well, you know what? The furniture's higher than you. When did you? What was I was reading the news.
Well, listen, thank God it was me. You should lock the door, man.
I can't lock the door. I don't have. Well, no, I'm telling the whole world to come and attack me. I've got to put a buzzer on it.
I don't know if you want buzzing happening while you're on air, though. It's got to be like a light buzzer kind of
No,
thing.
it's not a buzzer. There's that click. It goes click.
Oh,
It makes a click noise. That click.
all right.
Yeah, no.
Get
And
something
you
that has a light shine so you notice it. And nobody hears it.
No, I was reading the news. Do you know there are three
I was
things
sitting here for a couple minutes, Bob.
I've got the news. I've got the computer that tells me the temperature and all the sky conditions. I have notes here. I have a music computer there. Look at that. It's like a space station
I
in
see.
here.
I see.
I'm busy. Why are you tan?
Bob at the cockpit. I see
why
it all.
Why are you tan?
Tan? Why am I tan? I'm not tan.
You're still
I lost
so-
everything.
No, you didn't lose everything.
Yeah.
You still have like when it fades and it gets to a point where you're like a light toast.
I'm a light toast. I think this is my normal color, my toast color. But I am a little worried for you. I was sitting here for a few minutes. Come on.
And I didn't. Not, but you.
Thank God it's, friend or foe you have to worry about here.
You could have been. You could have been a homeless person wanted to cut my head off.
I could have been.
Yeah,
Good thing I'm not.
You'd like to be too, wouldn't you? So I see you put a little group together for people who like Radio Westchester. It's got all of 3 people. I like that.
Aw.
Now, I'm going to be an idiot, and that isn't hard for me to do, as you know, Melissa. Melissa Lonkeys is with us. We're trying to figure out where it'll fit in, but she definitely will be doing a show on our air. She's a very talented woman, as much as I like to pick on her. And she can do so many, many different things well. She's an educator. She's a She's a
See?
scuba diver.
Thank you.
And if you believe that there's only oxygen in those tanks,
There's
whether
not
it's all-
oxygen in that tank.
It's air.
Thank you.
But it's not night. And you probably have a little nitrous oxide in there. Hey, I'm diving, man. Bubble, bubble.
Oh, God.
Anyway, this is Radio Westchester. We are broadcasting live.
Be a whole new sport.
on this Thursday morning. When I say Thursday, I mean that's Tuesday. It is 59. It's on its way to 68. The fall just doesn't want to be here. It was all muggy yesterday. I see you wrote little tiny notes in your
Little tiny notes in my tiny binder.
What do you
And you
got
want
there?
to see what the irony about this whole thing is?
Oh,
part
look
of
at that. It
part of
says,
my
I love Bob.
That's what it says, right? You got me. Now everybody knows. Oh
Yeah.
God. Part of my tiny notes is about my tiny rebate check that you were just talking about. It's a joke. I don't know how many people
I don't know if you
got it.
Do you live in a co-op?
I live in a co-op,
Oh,
but still $92. What was that doing for me? And the funny thing is,
$92?
That's what it was,
You could be taking me
$92.
to dinner with $92.
listen, the funniest thing is not only was it $92, I see this, I don't know if you're part of this, the UPS, which I suggest everyone to do this, go on the UPS website and you could put your email address, you put your name, address
And they
on it.
tell you your mail
And every day tell your mail. A lot of people evidently don't know about this. It's pretty cool. So you know if something's missing.
Well, it's good because a lot of mail is getting ripped
Exactly.
off in this
So you
day.
know if
you
something's
get these little
missing.
tiny checks. Do you instead of a letter opener, do you use a little pen?
God.
I like little miniature things. Continue.
So, I see this thing from Department of Taxation. I'm like, oh God, I'm getting audited. What's happening? I'm starting to shake, right? And, someone had said to me, maybe it's a check. I'm like, why are they mailing me a check? It's not a check. I go home. Sure enough, it's a check. $92. But on the top, there's a quote that I'm going to mess it up, but basically was like, we hope this relieves you of, some pressure with money kind of thing about your taxes. Relieves me of pressure? $92 relieves me of pressure?
Can I say this to you? When they come up with something, a check, a pill, an electronic device, a nuclear device that could reduce your stress, I want to see it.
Yeah, me too.
Well,
$92 isn't doing it, I'll tell you that.
No one's ever said that Melissa Longkeese is laid back. And just a reminder, we always invite her in to come in and sidekick in the morning because she is delightful. But she will be reprising her show. She had one on another network where she will be meeting interesting people who are taller than she is. So what are your plans? What are you thinking about? I mean, we don't have to get into we don't have to do the deal today, but are you still thinking about doing the same kind of stuff?
I actually do like the concept I had. Those of you that listened to my show before, I had a lot of not-for-profits and charities on, and it always seemed, I was trying to give people a voice that didn't have a voice. It always seemed like it was, where is this going? It's something different every week. And then I noticed the commonality was it was people that are just so passionate about what they do, whether they were lucky enough to make a living out of it or, doing something that they do on the side because they love. It kind of opened it up to just passionate things and exploring your passion. So I've had politicians, celebrity chefs on, actors, singers, some pretty famous bands on, and it was great. And, now I've kind of gotten to the point where I haven't had the show in a couple months, and I still have people calling me and saying, I think we fit, we should go on.
You're jonesing.
And you know what? I liked the idea of, I didn't have anyone on I didn't believe in. And I like the idea of people coming on and their just joyfulness on what they do makes everybody else happy. And I would say every time, this person, this thing that they're doing may not be something you care about, you're passionate about, but it should inspire you to find your own passion because it, lights a fire up your butt when you do.
Excuse me? Ow. Melissa Longkeese does light a fire up, but not necessarily there, but it could be anywhere. Now, I want you to think back to your shows. Do you have any that stick out? Did you meet anyone that you said, oh my God, never thought about that? For example, I remember interviewing, and I'm not talking about the guest that said something, like the writer. I mean, there were all things that writers said or artists said or musicians said, but something that had your jaw hanging out. Like I was interviewing a Medal of Honor winner, and he had said to me, I said, but what's it like? He was a B-17 gunner. And they wound up in a firefight, and he got wounded in it, but took down. He says, well, what happens, Bobby, it's funny. Your blood gets up, and you're not so much as you're afraid as you're engaged in the fight.
Yeah.
Do you have any moments like that?
I definitely have guests that stick out that have become repeat guests because I think they're just so passionate about what they do. Actually, Dave Revels is one of them.
Dave Revels?
He was one of the original members of the Drifters, and now, also Persuasions.
He drifted away.
Also the Persuasions. He runs a show, Shadows of the 60s. He also has albums with, Bare Naked Ladies. And it's not just
That's a great name for a band. Did I ever mention that?
So it's not just like the complete talent that he has, entire groups of guys that I've met because of him. But they give so much back to charity. A lot of stuff, actually, the Jewish community he does a lot for, and they're African Americans. They're not Jewish. So for whatever reason, they have this connection with them.
You don't have to be Jewish to care about something.
No. I'm saying they have this connection, cool. And they also have, they do a lot for military families. They are all over the world performing, and we've had this connection. But on more of a person basis, not someone bigger that you could say, oh, I know this guy, he was in this band. I actually ended up being a 2-part series early on in the show about the opioid epidemic. And there was just so many ways to go with it. I had, different organizations there to help. And I had school boards talking, police that are supporting the schools, but families, some that lost their children, some that, thank God their kids were okay and they're trying to help other ones. And just different outcomes of things, and parents meeting each other that didn't know each other before, connecting, and now they're friends and kind of help each other out.
You
So
know,
it was a beautiful thing to watch.
what's curious about what you intend to do and what you did do is you talk about people who have a passion for what they do. Either they do it for a living or it's that second thing. And you have so many of those. Of the things that you've done, since I know you, that you're very committed to. Well, first of all, you were very committed to when you were working with the Lymphoma Society because of what happened with you. God bless you, you're well. I couldn't be happier. But you also are, again, not only do you dive and love it, but you worked your way up to become now a professional instructor. You are a very noteworthy, and you know, there's no other way to put this but bluntly. Whenever I tell people that you were a weightlifter, they think you're in here with tattoos, which I have no problem with, and looking straight out of professional boxing with your hair cropped and tattoos on your nose. You're a beautiful young woman, and you don't look like some weightlifter's going to throw things around, but also you cared about that. Which is your passion?
I would probably say more so the ocean, aquatic world in general. It's not just about scuba diving, but protecting that realm. You know, we have the luxury of being able to explore their world. They can't explore ours. So there's something to be said about, 70% of our Earth is water. Mm-hmm. If we're not protecting that 70%, our 30% means nothing.
Now, so you want to protect, why don't you say more about that? Because we know you as a dive instructor. And one day, we've got to do something for the radio. We've got to get me to one of your classes and see if you can be the person that gets my head underwater.
I was going to say that lets it actually work, huh?
Say more about that, because we know you as a diver, but we don't know you as someone who cares so much about the environment.
When you're underwater, there's two ways to look at it. You can just enjoy your time, look at the pretty fish. And I'm not saying I don't do that at times. But then the second there's something human-made, man-made in the water, you see a Coke bottle, you see fishing wire all over the place.
It almost seems like it doesn't belong.
Doesn't belong. Yeah. And especially when you're so far out that you're not even at a shoreline, it's disturbing. And, a lot of divers report where there's trash. There's actually websites to report where there's, ocean trash if people know where to get it. Mm-hmm. But, if I'm on the beach, I'm constantly picking things up and people are like, just relax. I'm like, no, these things go in. When you see a bird eating a cigarette butt, it's awful. And I've seen it. I've seen,
Someone should tell them smoking is not good.
Yeah. I've seen hooks in sharks' mouths and, having to try to get them out. So it's not fun seeing that. I've actually seen also, I'm sure you know about shark finning, and it's not illegal to kill a shark, it's legal to fin a shark. I've actually seen maybe about a week after 1 year trying to teach my students about shark finning, and we had President's Week off, and I was like in the Bahamas or something, and a shark that somehow survived had one fin removed, all the other ones were still there, it healed itself. For a moment, I didn't realize it was a shark. In a sea of other sharks, I didn't realize this one shark was a shark.
Sharks, yeah.
And I took a picture, and my worlds sometimes don't collide, and the teacher and me did, because that moment I'm like, let me take this picture to go back and show my students. And I'm like, I came back to work, I'm like, Jesus, you guys made me think about you on vacation, So I was so upset, but I was showing them, and, I said, God, this is the reality of it. This isn't like I'm turning on the news and looking at a newspaper and seeing the shark finning stats. This is me in real life seeing this fin shark.
Is it fair to say, now again, you have a successful teaching career, you're some 16, 17 years into it. If I just waved a magic wand at you and you had to do one thing to make a living, would it be that? Would it be the diving?
If I thought that I could actually make a living at it, maybe.
Only maybe.
Listen, I enjoyed the radio too. I don't think it's something I would lose my, give up my job for. But
you never know.
Yeah.
Well, one day you have me on. I'll tell you why I gave up my job to do the radio and decided to become a pauper. It's been
but that's bringing you back to passion. Look how different you are now, I'm sure.
We're talking with Melissa Lonkeys. I didn't grow, though. I'm still 5'7". We're talking with Melissa Lonkeys. She's a broadcaster, an educator, a professional, a scuba diver, an instructor. And I throw this in, and I think I'm going to stop doing that because we have to remind people that you are not well just in remission. You're declared cured now. Is it 5 years yet?
It's not exactly 5 years, but yeah, they say in 5 years you can consider it cured.
Yeah. She beat lymphoma and then was one of the runner-ups for Woman of the Year. I'd have voted for you. I just met you at the time, and you'd have gotten my vote. Before you go, how much time do you have?
10 minutes or so.
You have another, because I got to take a quick break. And when we come back with Melissa Longkeisha, we'll ask her a little bit more about what she's doing. And I'm going to do the sports while you're here, so maybe you can comment on it a little bit. Have you been following the baseball playoffs or the football playoffs or the hockey, the Rangers?
The only thing I've been following lately, I have to say, is the first time I'm in a pick'em pool. So I've been obsessed with who's winning what football game. Not that I really care what's happening.
Oh, you
I'm just obsessed with who's winning.
You know, I've noticed there's a lot of women that are in these pools. They wouldn't know the Minnesota Vikings from the Carolina Fluffy
You know if you're
Bunnies.
winning, though.
All right, we're going to be right back with Melissa Longkeys. I'm going to go get myself a good drink. Alrighty, let's see where we are. It is 6:36 on Tuesday, October 8th, 2019. It's 59 on its way to 68 today. Mostly cloudy. The temperature will be 68 degrees. Tonight, mostly cloudy. The temperature will be 52. The wind will be out of the northeast at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Wednesday, mostly cloudy and breezy with scattered showers. The temperature 59. The wind will be out of the northeast at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Thank you so much for listening. This is Radio Westchester. We are at the station. Now, a little bit of sports. And she had to take her leave to head to the sandbox. The Dodgers lost to the Nationals last night, so they're all tied up. And let me see, it would help if I put my glasses on, wouldn't I put them? See, I have bifocals, they're not bifocals per se, they're progressives, but they broke. And so I've been combining my contact lenses with reading glasses, and something I haven't done for many years. See, this is with glasses. All righty, let's double check the St. Louis defeated Atlanta 5-4. That series also tied up. And the Rays, a little later on in the program, Jake comes in. He's a big Rays fan. He loves the fact that they are underdogs. But the real key there is Charlie Morton, who used to pitch for the Astros. Once again, a stellar performance, 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 run. His ERA in the postseason is .90, but still, it's tough to beat the Astros. Likely the best team in baseball, but we shall see. All right, let's see what else we got cooking today. There are a number of stories that are troubling. And maybe I should have said interesting, but that would be dishonest. A story in the Post today. The vagrant charged in the Saturday Chinatown homeless massacre was roaming the streets because a nonprofit group posted his bail while he was jailed for allegedly groping a young woman. This goes all the way back to the bail issue. Most defense attorneys, even law enforcement officials, are very happy with the new set of bail laws, but this is a case in point that we should think about. The get out of jail free card was one of 2 big breaks that Randy Santos, 24, scored this year. A Brooklyn judge also let him slide on a potential year-long jail sentence after he defied a deal he cut on a turnstile jumping charge. The groping and fare evasion cases were both pending when he allegedly used a 3-foot piece of metal to fatally bludgeon 4 sleeping men and leave a 5th clinging to life. But this guy has all kinds of problems on his record. Why was he on the streets? And when you look at both ends of this, last week we covered a story about people who were wrongly incarcerated. And here we have a story about someone who should have been incarcerated. Is it a broken system? Or is it a broken system in the sense that there are more troubling factors? Are we hiring the best judges? Are we electing the best judges? Are we using the prosecutor's office for more than just people getting their experience so they can go on to the next big law firm? I don't know. But one of the calls we're going to make this week to get on next week is the great defense attorney, Murray Richmond. We've got to find out from Murray, who is our go-to expert, what is wrong with our system? When a prosecutor just to wins the case puts somebody to jail for 20 years and the judge doesn't really do his or her homework and that person 20 years later has to be released, that's a sad story all the way around. But when people are on the streets, and come on, we know it. I frequently talk about, we're going to open up Melissa's line, she's back. I did when I first started doing hard news, I did a ride around with the police up here in Westchester, New Rochelle specifically. And I went through the process with them that day of what they do before they go out on the street and where they're going to go. And what they do is they look at all the arrest records and outstanding warrants of people that they know to be on the street. And there were people with 50 arrests, 100 arrests. Now, we've got a segment of society, and I'm not talking about the people that are accused of crimes, but the people who would help them, who want to be sure they get a fair shake, who want to be empathic to the fact that they haven't had easy lives. All that's well and good, but there's a sweet spot in there someplace. These people shouldn't be on the street. And a thing I always bug Mike Duffy, and Duffy's with us later on, and we'll be talking about this case, is if I right now walk out of this radio station and I have an illegal gun on me, I'm probably going to do a year in jail. But for some reason, when they arrest some gangbanger on the street for drug dealing, or because he beat some woman up with a bat, or punched some grandmother to steal her purse, the gun, if he's got a gun on him, he's not spending that. Poor him. There's something fundamentally wrong with the system. And then someone's, Bob, the jails will be full. Well, if that's the case, then that's the case. If we shouldn't be locking someone up for a marijuana cigarette, or even a really low-level dealer who's, selling a couple of joints to his friends. But there's got to be a sweet spot in there. There's got to be a reasonable spot. Am I crazy, Melissa?
No, you know what? There's something nice about giving someone that made a simple mistake, a one-time mistake, a second chance, depending on what that thing is. But when you have 50 arrests, 100 arrests, that's not a second chance anymore. That's just ridiculous at a certain point. And then you're shocked when the person does it again. We thought we recuperated him. No, you didn't.
Well, recuperated him. Yeah. No, let's take you. You are, even though you're 5 foot, mine is 5'2". You did some amateur boxing, or what do you call it?
I did Muay Thai for a long time.
Who?
Muay Thai.
I put Muay Thai on only if I have a special event to cover. What's Muay Thai?
Muay Thai and Oyama Karate. I did.
Oyama Karate. Okay.
Yeah.
So theoretically, you can come around this console here, punch me in the nose, break it, and you're going to get arrested.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're going to do time, or you're going to have to pay a fine.
And then it will be in the paper. New York City teacher goes to radio station, harasses the host.
But it would be easier for you if you did it 50 times.
Yeah.
It would be mitigated somehow.
Yeah.
And it's aching me because generally I've had some liberal tendencies throughout my life. If I keep doing hard news longer, there may be no shred left of it, except socially. I don't know.
Or would I be, I hate to say this, but I don't fit the type of, like you're saying, the gangbanger, let's get him out of, the bad neighborhood, and this is why he is who he is kind of thing. I don't fit that stereotype, so maybe I wouldn't get away with it.
You know what, though? See, but here's the issue, and that's why I use the term sweet spot, Melissa. There is truth to that. Okay, and it has to do with whether it's poverty, but again, the control of thought by my friends on the liberal side is what the problem is, because we can say that, and if I had the far left liberals said, yeah, that's right, what are we going to do about it? And then had I said the next thing, well, we have to work on the culture. That's racist. Don't mention. Okay, if we don't look at a thug culture in those particular instances, as we do in the Italian neighborhoods, we talk about our thug culture. Yeah. We make fun of it. We may make movies like The Sopranos.
But it's not hidden.
No, but unless you've grown up in a hard Italian neighborhood where everybody thinks they're a mafia wannabe. And I remember I lived in it was actually a very safe, wonderful neighborhood in many ways. But my anecdotes, which I never told in my old shows, which this is a little more open forum, I'll never forget. I'm sitting on the steps reading a book one day. A guy comes up to me in real gangsterese. Hi, Don. Hey, what do you say? Are you like half a fag or something? I see you reading a book. And now that's not meant to be disparaging to gay people, but that's what he says. I'm just reading a book. You talk funny. And I don't have a problem. I can make fun of it. I love my Italian culture, but that is a part of the culture that is troubling. Well, and I'm not talking about the good kid that grows up and talks like that and is that and goes out and gets a good job and works. I'm talking about, no, I'm going to be a wise guy. I'm hanging around a coffee shop all day. I'm going to be doing things, I'm going to make some money and get some, going to have a sit down. I get a kick out of it, but I understand it's a problem. I don't think it makes me a racist versus Italians to say that. So you have that going on in a lot of the ethnic neighborhoods where you can't talk openly about the causes.
No, and you know what? I try to have conversations here and there with my own students about, when we start talking about racism and in the country itself, that every culture that has come here, every, country that's now it's your turn to kind of come over and immigrate has had that. Italians have had that. Irish have had that. Jewish have had that. Like, everybody is hated at a certain point.
Although we came here willingly. One of the things that we need to do, like for example, the big debate I have with this, being stuck in the middle as I am, with people who come in and talk about these kinds of issues, is there is white privilege. There's no question about it. I mean, and I always use one of the greatest. Chris Rock is my favorite comedian, and Chris Rock does a deal where he's talking about white privilege, and someone asked him what he meant, and it was so funny. He said, somewhere in the back of this theater, and I'm just trying to channel him, he's so good. There's a white guy working for $18 an hour. He's got one eye, missing a leg. Now look at me, I'm rich. If you asked him if he wanted to be me, he'd probably say, I'm going to stick with this white thing for a while. It is. Yeah. It has been. It's always been because of the way America evolved. But when you start calling it white supremacy,
that's a whole nother
story. As if
story.
people are lording it, as it is in some of the documents they hand you in school. I want to go get Carranza, and I want to sit him here by this microphone and have him explain himself.
I really wish I was here for your interview with the new superintendent in Rochelle the other day.
She was terrific.
I would have loved to meet her. I think we would have had a lot in common.
No, she was terrific, but she was fair. She understood those issues. She's not even a tiny bit of a racist in any way. She's going to be good for every color. But the reason I bring that up, and it's not this is neither about the black or the Italian culture. It is about being able to talk honestly about these issues. Because the same thing holds true. How many gangsters, how many mobsters are arrested with guns, don't go to jail with a gun. Don't go to jail for it. How many of them do the police know are openly gangsters? Again, the gangster life, however it expresses itself, whether it's the Italians, the African Americans, Albanians, and even there's white privilege. I get my privilege.
And what do you think it is? Do you think there's like a cool factor in that? And that's
absolutely.
Why? You
know what? You got to be a guy, and it's all relative. And this is why I cut slack on the why, but I don't want to cut slack on the consequence. Yeah. And what I mean by why is I played. And there are people listening who know what I'm talking about. I played in the absolute toughest hockey league in this region 40, 50 years ago. And I mean, I'm talking, it was basically a gang war on skates. But the talent.
I love when you act tough, Bob.
No, but I wasn't. Well, at least then. I got tougher at hockey later on. I was a good finesse player. I could fly. But the pressure to be tough, the pressure not to back down, the pressure to be manly, the pressure even to talk differently. I mean, when I coach my team, I have a different dialect than I do now. Like, do you think I say to someone on the teams I coach, that was an inadvertent pass? And I think that we should get together and probably discuss the various alternatives. That's not how it goes down. It more goes on.
Do you do the glasses half down look with your eyes up that you're doing right now too?
What the pluck were you thinking? Are you out of your freaking mind? Really? That's the dumbest. So it's. But what I'm saying is, when you grow up, and I imagine it.
When I grow up, I love that.
No, I don't mean you. When one grows up, Melissa Longkeys, and a lot of guys know what I'm talking about, and so hopefully you grow out of that one day. Guys in the mob never do.
Listen, not everyone does.
Guys in the mob never do. Guys, a lot of people who are athletes never do. In fact, there's still a little bit of that. Now, I remember I'm a 69-year-old hockey player who, who doesn't. I don't take any golf anymore.
Yeah.
But it's what I'm trying to say is the bubble that you grow up in, that you live in, and that's why culture matters.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, I always imagined that if I had the courage, had I grown up in an African American neighborhood or a Latino neighborhood, or as I did in a mixed race neighborhood, the pressure to be in a regular gang was very powerful. Except I had the gang on skates, so I got a pass. So I understand that. So what we need to do is find ways for people to make other choices. Because I got to tell you, you take the average young man, look at him in the eyeball, particularly if he hasn't had a good parenting life, and his only real social setting are his buddies, he would rather get arrested and spend 10 months in jail than be called a punk.
I will say, as someone that I grew up in South Yonkers. I get it.
And so I feel that way. But unless we have that honest conversation, because it's not about race, it's about culture. And I mean, right now everybody gives Asian people a hard time because they're successful. That's absurd. In fact, I'm going to go to my grave. I think one of the biggest reasons that anti-Semitism persists is an envy of their culture. I mean, do you think it's a coincidence that they're great at the arts, that they're great at medicine, that they're good at what they do, that they have a culture of success? I always kid people. I grew up Jewish. I'd be a doctor today. I didn't know I was smart until I was 30. I was encouraged in my culture, become a garbage man or a cop. Yeah. That's your future. Do you follow me? Me? Anyway.
Pros and cons to every culture, I guess. But, like I was saying, I grew up in South Yonkers in a rough neighborhood. I probably was the only...
You never grew up. You were there.
Yes, I was there. I lived there for a while. When it used to be a joke when my friends would come and I'd have a Christmas party and they wouldn't know where I was, which building I was in. And I remember my friend Eric saying he knew it was my house in the, a sea of minorities, hearing random Italians going, "Hey, Minnie, hey, Sal, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I guess that's her house." But the funny thing is there's definitely that culture of the people that fight in these communities. Mm-hmm. But then if you're not in that gang environment, everybody else is great to you as a neighbor. And they didn't care I was white. They took care of me. Yes. We were neighbors.
Yep.
So that sense of community was there. And it didn't matter. I wasn't, like them. I was still like them. I was their neighbor. And that was great. True. I never had to worry about if something went down and there was some gang member that I may have been in the middle of their fight, my other neighbor would pull me away from it and get in my house. This is going on right now. And, everybody trusted each other and were good to each other that weren't part of that, because they wanted to protect their kids.
And the other part of that, every culture, there's a Latin word. I hate it because it doesn't belong on radio, but it fits your sui generis in that it is its own unique thing. I'm going back to hockey only because there's a social aspect of it. I play hockey with a lot of guys that go back to when I was a kid that were just great players and still are. And just some of them have gone on to be pros. But we grew up in tough neighborhoods. One group from Brooklyn, the other from the west side of Manhattan. But there were, in all the ruffian culture we grew up in, there also was a culture of you do the right thing by your family, you work hard, you show up to work, you have a work ethic, you take care of your parents. And in every culture, whether it's black, Latino, Italian, whatever the mutt that you are, there are these things. And so you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So these are complicated issues.
Yeah.
I mean, guys I play hockey with, they break my chops all the time about having liberal views on the radio. They're not all liberal, obviously, based on parts of this conversation. But they are the best parents and hardworking and responsible people you'll ever meet. Don't mention Obama to them, which beat me in the head. So, and that's how life is. It's not simple.
No, and you know what? Even with politics, it's very hard to find someone that has that nice middle ground. It's automatically, you're Democrat, you're Republican, you're far left, you're far right. Where the heck is the middle? Where's the person that just has a sound rereasoning and can say that this is what would be the right thing to do?
We all have our egos. That would be my sense of how I am, but I've got, as I said, I got some liberal friends, I've got some conservative friends, I got some very hard right friends, and they are every single one of anyone's friends. There's merit to who they are, and if you just paint people black and white, you're not going anywhere. It's, like one of the guys I play hockey with. I torture him all the time. He's a goalie, wonderful human being. I mean, this guy's just wonderful, great family man. And he and I both have our grandsons that play with us sometimes if we go on a charity game. And he couldn't be a bigger Trump supporter. So I used to do terrible things. Like one day he had a game, and I knew he hated Obama, so I put a huge picture of Obama on the back of his jersey.
Oh, that's
He's
great.
a goalie. And I told guys on the other team, don't mention it till the end of the game. Just don't do it. I don't care if you want to beat me, do it. And so we do stuff like that to one another, and we are, but it does not affect the relationship one bit. And I wish we could get that to the rest of society somehow.
Listen, if, we get told this as teachers too, you can have the roughest child student in the world. You have to stop and find that redeemable quality, because everyone has one, and then they're a person.
Even you?
Everybody, including me, Bob, including you.
What's your redeemable?
But seriously, think about it that way. The worst person in the world that is committing those crimes, the people that are trying to help them, are the ones that see that there is something ultimately good in everyone and find it.
Well, or largely good. You just don't know.
Yeah.
So I know you have to get out of here. You've got to let me know when we can get together and lock up when you're going to be doing your show, the Tadpole Show.
The Tadpole Show. Not the official name, please.
No, but we have to do that. We do have
Show.
to do that.
We do
have to
We do.
come this spring. We go through this. We have to do a spot where you finally take me to scuba dive and get my head below water, and we'll tape it, and people can have fun. I mean, did I ever tell you the worst thing I did to promote radio?
Oh, boy.
Well, I've done jujitsu and all that stuff and have my brains beaten. The worst was I went to one of those cryogenic things.
Oh, God, they're awful. I tried it once. Not
You
good.
did?
Oh, God, I thought I was going to die.
You chose?
Oh, it was horrible. I hated it. There was nothing good about it, and I did not feel better after, like they said I would.
No, neither did I. Well, when you're a
God.
woman, it's a little worse for a guy.
Listen,
You're in that beaker.
there are other
You're in
things that
this-
could freeze, Bob.
Folks, well, that was my point. I was in, folks, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there are these services where, and I know it's professional athletes use them. Imagine a giant vat. But you got to walk up, and the 2/3 of it, there's like a little floor, and you get in there, and you have to get totally naked, and you're up to your neck. People can see your head. And then when
You
they
have socks on and gloves.
Yeah,
You're supposed to.
Yeah, but I needed another sock.
And another little sock, too.
I didn't have that little
They're
sock.
supposed to give you that.
I didn't have another sock. And
That's
so
great.
there was like this, like when you see an old science movie and the smoke's coming out of
Yeah,
the beaker,
yeah.
right? So the smoke's coming out of this
The
thing.
dry ice.
And now, plus, they were sponsors. They were going to sponsor where I was working. I said, I got to do this. And they were going to sponsor the Chamber of Commerce. And I said, I got to do this to promote radio and to promote this. Plus, and this is ego, I didn't make a pass at anybody, but the women that ran the place were gorgeous, and they were saying, you'll be fine. So now you have the same thing I was talking about before about guys. I can't admit that I'm a coward. I can't admit that let me get in there. So now I'm in there, and they drop it to 55 degrees below zero. You only have to stay for 3 minutes, the longest 3 minutes of my life.
Yes.
And I'm going to be blunt with you without getting myself in trouble. I thought it was going to fall off. That's number one. Number one, I thought it was going to, and then my whole body started to shake.
No, you think you're having a seizure.
Oh, no, and I'm saying, and 1 minute left, Bob, and they're down there with these giant bathrobes, and I'm standing up in this thing, and I'm saying, I'll never do this again, but I have to act brave because I'm a male idiot.
Now, the whole point is to make your muscles feel better and all this stuff.
I
Did you
felt
think
miserable. I felt
after
miserable.
the fact, did you think it helped anything?
No.
I thought it did not a damn thing except for making me feel like I'm having a seizure.
No, what it did is it actually made me ache because
It
when you're
hurt
cold,
so
your
bad.
muscles
Yes.
clamp up.
Yep. Oh, God, I'm glad someone else feels
Oh,
the
no.
same way, because I've met people that swear by it.
Oh, no.
Now, listen, you did it for the sake of radio, which is great. I paid for this damn thing.
You paid
so
for it?
now,
Oh, I got
now
mine free.
mind you, that really made me feel like I better last the whole 3 minutes because I paid for it.
But you're not a guy. You've never tried to put something that doesn't belong in a microwave.
Listen, other things above, and you would feel that too. It doesn't feel
I
good when you're frozen.
I guess you could get ice cream.
Everybody else was like, "Oh my God, just it's relaxing. It's a little cold. You'll be okay." I thought I was
little
having a
cold.
seizure. My whole body was shaking so much.
And then all that, the cloud
God.
of mist over your head.
I actually thought I was going to
and
die.
they're smiling. Wasn't it great? Here's your
I know.
bathrobe. They threw it in. So,
The best is they tried to sell me a package of this after. I'm like, I think I'm good now.
if they tried, I don't know, because all they saw was my butt. I was out of
Well, I will say, if you're embarrassed with things like that, and that's why you had to finish it because it was on air and someone was looking, then maybe that's the way to go. Go in the pool at Scuba New York. Come with me. Put your head in the water.
No,
I
but that's
guarantee you.
different.
No.
You're not. I'm not going to panic.
Listen, if you're completely under and you think that that's what freaked you out, go. I can teach you some things in the pool.
Okay.
If you're on air and it's me there, you're not going to say
Here's
you're
what
scared.
we're going to do. We're going to bring my daughter, because my poor daughter, who's a good swimmer, she was with me, and when we were in the Gulf of Mexico, I forget where we were. When they took us out on those little scuba things, those what do you call them? Wave runners.
Okay.
And they took us out to the whatever it is where you do that, and she saw me try to put my head in the water and my flippers up, and then I started going around panicking like I was on a rotisserie spin, and I couldn't stop spinning. And she kids me about it to this
Does she have
day.
a video of this? God, I hope so.
No, she don't. No, but the video's in her brain. I wish she was listening. I tell her to call in at 222-3141. Chris, if you are listening, and sometimes she does, but she's got to get to work. If you are listening, you definitely have to call in, because she has never really gotten over it.
That's great.
That and another time I jumped in water over my head, and all these little kids were in the water, and I was pushing them out of the way. And it was I can swim, but don't upset my little apple cart.
Do you remember the Seinfeld episode where George thought there was a fire and it wasn't? And
No.
he's just pushing all the kids and old ladies out of the way. And then it turns out there's not a fire and they just look at him like, you jerk. Why did I just picture that right now? You
No.
pushing little kids out of the way.
it was.
Get out of here.
Well, my daughter goes a little overboard. She says I was punching at them, but they were like
Swatting the little flies
they
away.
were like piranhas, and the water was like 20 feet deep, and I'm thinking I'm going to go down with all these little kids all over me, No, but the worst was when we went out by the reef or whatever it is, and it was just awful. So we will do that. We will do that to promote
should.
Radio Westchester, and I will be brave.
Will you?
I will be brave.
Listen, if somebody else can see you brave, maybe they will have this idea in their head that I can also be a scuba diver, because I try to promote that sport as much as possible.
If you can teach me to scuba dive, you've really accomplished something. My daughter won't believe it. She won't believe I'll get my head underwater. She just won't.
We got to try it.
All right. Melissa, I know you have to get back to work. It's always a delight to have you, and frank talk is a good thing. All the best to you. Melissa
Thank you.
Longkeese, everyone. You will be hearing more from her. It is the top of the hour. Let's take a look at the weather. We're produced today, and with the assistance of United Hebrew, Aging Issues Management, and Plug-in Virtual Reality. And what's that all about? You see it on TV. You've heard about it. If you go on the web, you can experience it a little bit. Now, here's the deal. Imagine that you come into the studio at night. Well, we're not doing radio. Radio's on, but it sort of goes on autopilot. Imagine if you put this little helmet on your head and you get these paddles, but once you put the helmet on, this is all gone. And whatever game you've chosen or whatever environment you've picked is what you see and what you play. And the ones that I've tried out had me trying to bat back discs that were coming at me, or, of course, the classic shooting things, and it's wonderful. And you may think, well, of course, in front of you it looks like that, but what about if you turn around? If you turn around, you're still in another world. If you look down, it's still in another world. This is all gone. Now, it gives you a frame of reference. Once you hold those, know where your hands are. And those paddles or whatever you're using, those are your hands for virtual reality. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. It makes for a lot of laughs, because while you are doing these things, there is a big screen and people are watching exactly what you're dealing with in your virtual reality world. And they're laughing their butts off because they watch you do that. And then they're laughing your butts off because you're standing there in the middle and you look like you're having some sort of a fit. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. We do it here. 914-727-2726. 272726. No, it's 7272726. We got to change the way I read it. I'm going to read it backwards. 914-727-2726. Now, if you would prefer to have that at your party, we send a crew out to your house. We set up two, not one, but two virtual reality experiences. And everybody has a great time. Better than putting your face in one of those little squares and taking a picture if you're having a party. Could be a retirement party, a bar mitzvah, or whatever. So those are our supporters of today's program. As we pass through now 7:05, let's take a look at the lineup. If Vince calls early, we're going to put him on. I gave Vince, Vince from North Jersey, a bad time. But coming up at 7:20, Mike Edelman. 7:35, Bob Cox. He has a number of stories to break today, one of them involving a campaign contribution to a local city councilman. Mike Duffy's in the house today, Ivar Hayden, Jack Breslin, and at 8:20, we will talk with the Republican candidate for mayor here in New Rochelle, Mr. Conway. So all that is coming up this hour. Let's take a look at the weather, and then we'll cover some of the news stories of great interest to you, we hope. Right now it's 59, going to 68 today, mostly cloudy. The temperature will be 68 degrees. The wind will be out of the north-northeast at 5 to 15 miles an hour. Tonight, mostly cloudy. The temperature 52, and that's an average, by the way. The wind will be out of the northeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour. Wednesday, mostly cloudy and breezy with scattered showers. The temperature around 59. So the weather's not as cool as one might like for the fall, but it's decent enough. We'll take it. It's not too cold. It's not too hot. Let's get to our local stories. This one out of Lohud this morning. The pastor of a Catholic church in Marrone has been accused of abusing a child decades ago. Monsignor James White has been placed on administrative leave at St. Vito Most Holy Trinity Church because of the accusations, which he denied in a letter to parishioners last week. And this is a quote from him. "I was profoundly shocked," he said. "Disturbed and saddened by this news," he wrote in a letter on October 2nd. Cardinal Timothy Dolan also sent a letter to parishioners on October 3rd about White's ministry being temporarily restricted. White said in his letter he was informed on September 26th of an allegation of inappropriate conduct with a minor. He said it dates back to the 1980s when he was the Dean of Discipline at Cardinal Hayes High School, an all-boys school in the Bronx, and a school that I'm proud to say when I was at Bishop Ford, we kicked their butts in basketball. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, Dolan also went on to say in his letter that the accusation is being investigated by prosecutors as well as the Archdiocese Lay Review Board, which helps determine whether an accused priest can return to the monastery. Now, we have one of those murder-suicide cases here in our home, Heath, and this took place up in Poughkeepsie, actually. George Grogan. And this out of Lohud today. George Grogan was served with divorce papers back on September 26th. 2 days later, his wife's body was found in his vehicle near Bear Mountain Bridge. Audrey Grogan filed for divorce on September 12, according to Dutchess County Supreme Court records, which show an affidavit of service to George Grogan. Well, Grogan was found dead himself in a wooded area east of the Bear Mountain Bridge on Thursday. The 59-year-old town of Poughkeepsie man's identity was confirmed by the Westchester County Medical Examiner's Office Friday. This, according to town of Poughkeepsie Police. Town police there have not commented on the nature of the circumstances of either death, but suffice it to say, both gone now. Tragic story, but a story all too common. We, on these broadcasts and its many iterations, have often said, and this I feel in my bones, there's not a person alive that hasn't had their heart broken. And when it's a marriage, it's got to be doubly broken. You really can't handle it. I mean, really, try and call a doctor, call a shrink. They have medication. You can talk. It is horrible. But you've got to stop the pain. Do everybody a favor. Point the gun to yourself. Don't shoot the woman. And it's almost always men shooting women. Let the person have a life. If you can't bear it, go. Or you shouldn't. You should get help because it'll pass. But don't take another life with you. And that's a comment I'll make every time I do one of these stories. I'm sick of those kinds of stories for the sake of humanity. But now we go to some good news. Someone in our region has won a Nobel Prize. It was shortly after 4 p.m., and this happened yesterday. Dr. Greg Semenza received the call from the Nobel Committee. He won the Nobel Prize. And this in Lohud today. The cool thing about it is that he grew up in our area. His mom lives in Tarrytown. He went to Sleepy Hollow High School. And a call in the middle of the night. He couldn't wait to talk to his mom. At any rate, after several tries, Semenza, a Tarrytown native and 1974 graduate of Sleepy Hollow High School, finally got through to his mother. The Academy recognized Semenza, he's 63, the C. Michael Armstrong Professor of Medicine at Johns Hopkins. Wow, that's a great job. For studies of how cells respond to low oxygen levels. And they go on to say this can help in so many ways. Blood disorders, blinding eye diseases, cancer, diabetes. And you can just see the possibilities. So when people have a stroke or when people have a heart attack and their cells, particularly brain cells, are deprived of oxygen, that problem leads often to someone who has no brain function and maybe the rest of the body still functions. And it never ends well. Similarly, they look at ways to starve tumors by depriving them of nutrients or oxygen. That's a major breakthrough. God bless this man. Good for you. We need people like this to keep doing that. If you didn't get your property tax rebate check yet, don't worry. The state is still sending hundreds of thousands more. According to the state tax department, separately, 390,000 checks have gone to homeowners under the STAR program for new homeowners since the mid-2015 season, and those whose household incomes are between $250,000 and $500,000. And between both programs, the State Department of Taxation and Finance expects more than 2 million checks will ultimately go out this fall. We thank Lohud for that story as well. Moving right along, it is, 7:11 in 9 minutes. We will get busy with our other guests. We have Mike Edelman at 7:20. We'll see how he feels about the latest whistleblower and some of the other things in our conversation yesterday as well with Ron Kessler. Let's start sports. The Yankees are headed to the American League Championship Series, winning 5-1 last night. The good news about that series is the biggest concern that the Yankees had was whether or not they had enough pitching. That is specifically starting pitching. And everyone would look at the guys that were hurt or Severino being out. And, of course, even now they're without Jaman because of a alleged domestic violence incident. But they got 3 great starts from their pitchers. If they can keep that up, they're going to go a long way. Last night, no exception to that. And one exception in the other game, Jake will be in a little later and he'll probably glow. Charlie Morton of the patched up, thrown together Tampa Bay Rays pitched another great game. A curveball pitcher, not a power pitcher. Pitched another great game and is keeping his team in the playoffs. Good for him. Let's see what else we have coming up. The Rangers made a trade last night. Nemestikov, $4 million a year guy. Well, he's been traded too for no name, but they really did it to clear cap space. They got a number of guys they'll probably call up. The gentleman they sent to the minors, Elias Anderson. Oh, no, Cheidel, I'm sorry. Mr. Cheidel, and that will be a good thing. All righty. Let's see. We can take a call before we get to Mike Edelman at 914-222-3141, 914-222-3141. And one of the issues on the table, and this really is a question tomorrow for Harlan Ullman, and he will be with us at 9 o'clock. The president has made a decision, and before we overreact to it, let's remember that when the president took office, he did say he'd try and get us out of as many wars as he could. And to be fair to him, he's tried to do that, but he also has to look at the consequences of these things. On Monday, he defended his decision, this is out of the Post, to pull American troops out of northern Syria, declaring as the withdrawal began that the United States would only fight where it is to our benefit. Now, here's the problem. And this has come up again and again. The first Iraq War, the second Iraq War, the Syrian War, but mostly in recent memory the fight against ISIS. The best soldiers in the fight against ISIS that we took credit for spearheading, that, and something this president doesn't get credit for, he said he would get rid of ISIS, and he did. But he had a partner. The Lone Ranger had, I guess it was Tonto, I can't remember who his Indian buddy was, but he had his sidekick. Batman had Robin. And we had the Kurds. Now, I'm going to take a risk here, do a little geography. If you were to look at a map of that part of the Middle East, and that's really, it gets into Asia, the Kurds have an interesting problem in that they have a country that borders a number of other countries, which is to say, and it's very hard to do. The Kurdish people live up here, and they have people here in Iraq. They have people here in Syria. And this is not meant to be literal. The point is that their existence goes across many countries. And you have here Turkey. Everyone, the Iraqis, the Syrians, and some of the other people in between, and certainly Turkey. No one wants these brave, decent people, and they are, to become a state. Now, it's true they want their own state, but you will recall after the first Iraq War, when we left, they helped us in that war as well, Iraq being down here. They helped us in that war as well, and we left them, and thousands of them were killed. So now here we are again. They helped us get rid of the Syria and Iraq, okay? ISIS was down here. They helped drive ISIS out. They helped defeat ISIS. And if we leave and Turkey moves into Syria, which is what they want to do, they've always considered the Kurds a terrorist organization because they don't want them to gain any power and become a state. And they don't want to be a challenge to them. Now, what the president has been told by Democrats and Republicans in the military and our intelligence services alike is that if we leave, Turkey, who is our ally, a crazy ally right now, they're run by a dictator or close to a dictator, Turkey will attack the Kurds. And that's what the concern is. Again, as simple as two countries up here with zones of Kurds and Turkey over here. Turkey wants to push the Kurds out. So, President Trump defended his decision in a series of tweets, and later in a talk at the White House, the commander-in-chief brushed off criticism that the move announced the night before would leave America's Kurdish allies in a lurch and warned Turkey, good for the president that he did, against making any move against its old foes. He also asserted in a morning tweet that the U.S. was only supposed to be in Syria for 30 days, but we stayed and got deeper and deeper into battle with no aim in sight. But it's time for us to get out. Goodness, we're 7,000 miles away, he said, and we'll crush ISIS again if they come anywhere near us. And that's the issue. Turkey considers the Kurdish militia a terrorist group, as we've said, aligned with the Kurdistan Workers' Party that has been fighting Ankara for decades. Trump also declared that since he took office, the U.S. defeated 100% of the ISIS caliphate and captured thousands of militants who he said were mostly from Europe. But Trump said that captured ISIS fighters and their families will be detained by the Kurds. No longer America's problem. They must, with Europe and others, watch over the captured ISIS fighters and families. So he also went on to say, and this was a little bit of a stretch, I don't think they put it in the Post. Oh, yes, they did. I can't believe he worded it this way. I mean, this really, and it does give people trouble when it comes to Donald Trump. It gives people pause that he throws in these comments. Listen to this. I didn't think I saw it in the Post piece. I saw it in the Times this morning. As I have stated strongly before, if Turkey, and this is a direct quote from the president's tweet, as I have stated strongly before, and just to reiterate, if Turkey does anything that I, in my great and unmatched wisdom, how would you say this? In my great and unmatched wisdom, consider to be off limits, I will totally destroy and obliterate the economy of Turkey. I've done before, Trump tweeted. Okay. I like that the president threatened him. I don't think he needed to do it in that way. Although, it should be noted that Turkey is a nuclear power. We helped do that for him. All right, let's look at what's coming up. And I gave Vince Russo a blind curve. Mike Edelman is coming up at 7:20. Bob Cox at 7:35. Now, we're going to be keeping Bob Cox through 8 o'clock. He has a lot to report on. Now, we got a call from Anthony earlier, a text. He'd like to get in on one of the local stories. We always ask the guests. We never blindside a guest, but we'll see if we can include him in that. At 8:20, we will have Brendan Conroy. He is running for mayor here in New Rochelle on the Republican ticket. He'll be calling in and visiting us. Mike Duffy. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about. And here is the phone, and I know who's going to be there. Mike Duffy's with us at 8:35, Ivar Hyden at 8:50, Jack Breslin at 9 o'clock. And without further ado, let's say good morning to Mike Edelman. Good morning, Michael.
Hey, Bob, how you doing today?
Doing pretty well. I just did the story, and without getting into whistleblowing, I don't understand the president pulling the troops out. I mean, I do. He made a commitment to pull the troops out of Syria when he took the job, but circumstances have changed. We can't abandon the Kurds again. We've done it before.
We cannot abandon the Kurds. The Republicans in the Senate know it. Nikki Haley knows it. She's spoken out. Pat Robertson spoke out and said that heaven would no longer give its blessing to Trump. We're leaving an ally. We're sending a message to the world that the United States is unreliable. This was an impulsive decision he made on a telephone call with an autocrat, Erdogan, and he didn't ask a soul for advice. He simply did it on impulse. Now, you know, Trump's got two Trump Tower buildings in Istanbul. So every time this guy makes a decision, his financial interests get in the way. And everybody has spoken out on this. Ben Sass spoke out. Lindsey Graham spoke out. Mitt Romney spoke out. Marco Rubio, Mitch McConnell. There isn't a Republican, with the exception of maybe, Rand Paul, that is, we cannot take our troops out and allow these people to get slaughtered. Very simple.
Who is the whack job? I always forget. He carries water. I mean, the Democrats have their AOC, but this guy, he's the guy who leaves his collar. I forget his name, and I should know it with what.
Jim Jordan.
What's wrong with him?
He's something is wrong with him. He's a Tea Party guy. His signature is not wearing a suit jacket. He walks around. He's the guy from Ohio State that was involved in the abuse. The sex scandal, remember the abuse of the kids on the wrestling team, and he's always got he's irrational, is what it is.
Well,
he's not a rational.
He's
guy.
right up there with Kellyanne Conway on saying things that don't make any sense. But now let's back up. It's just because it infuriates me. But I wanted to back up. You know, the president did say he's get out of Syria, and I have, and that's a good thing that he thought of that. But do you think, to be fair to him, that he's simply being naive? That he doesn't? Does he really think? Does he really think that the Turks won't attack the Kurds? Does he really believe that?
Well, he doesn't know what to believe because he hasn't got a clue on policy. You know, one of the problems with Donald Trump is he's never read a briefing book. In my great and unmatched wisdom, he said, if they overdo it, meaning Erdogan and Turkey, I'm going to destroy their economy. Really? You really going to do that in your great and unmatched wisdom? Who says that, Bob? What president of the United States talks about himself in those narcissistic terms? This is a guy who is not right. I understand he just wanted to get Erdogan off the phone because Erdogan was complaining he didn't get a sit down at the United Nations last week when they were all in town. But that's not a reason to say, okay, go into Syria. If ISIS reconstitutes, which is what will happen, if Turkey is allowed to go in, then it's going to be on Donald Trump. Meanwhile, impeachment is up to 58% as of this morning. In favor of 48% in favor of removal.
But he still has 80% support from the Republicans. That has
Yeah,
not
80%
wavered.
and 30%. 80% and 30%, because 30% that's a fictitious number. He could have 100% of Republicans. It's only 30 or 32% of the electorate. Everybody else is a Democrat or a non-aligned person, and he's losing badly. Okay, with those people. That's why the polling demonstrates that as of this morning, 58% want the impeachment to proceed, the inquiry, and 49% want him removed. When that number goes over 50, he's going to leave. I told you this 2 years ago. His former chief of staff, Barbara Race, gave an interview saying the way this ends for Donald Trump is the way it always ended in New York. He makes an excuse, he makes a deal, and he exits.
There are no shortage of people, though, who feel that he will somehow get through, and that hope that it is left to the electorate. What say you?
Well, either way, he's not going to be president again. I just think he'll leave because of all he doesn't want to be the subject of impeachment. Don't forget, he's got a brand to protect. He's got Trump Towers, he's got Trump clubs, he's got Trump golf course. Just think about the hit, business-wise, that he will take if he is impeached. People are not going to go there. There's a stigma to that. Richard Nixon, right? Remember Richard Nixon? He had only 19% wanted impeachment when it was all over 70% were in favor of impeachment, and his brand went down the toilet. Now, he didn't own hotels and golf courses, but it's the same thing. Trump does not want to be remembered historically as the fourth president in the history of the country to be impeached.
Now, being impeached is one thing. Being convicted is another. There are too many votes in the Senate, Republican votes, for him to be removed from office. And the debate,
Probably.
of course, the debate always is, should we go ahead with impeachment knowing it could hurt us politically? That is with the Democrats. Or should we do it because it's the right thing to do? Now, every time I have a political scientist on, they say they shouldn't impeach him because politically it's damaging. Now,
I don't believe that.
I don't know if it can be proved beyond a reasonable doubt, or at least within whatever rigors the Senate has to remove the president from office. But the larger question exists, and political pundits always think about politics, not the country, in my view. Wouldn't it be better, and this is rhetorical, wouldn't it be better to have a president such as Mr. Pence, where people didn't agree with 15 things that he might believe in, and maybe he even gets them all done? But you know what? He did it legally. He did it as a statesman. He did it because this is what the people who voted for him want. Wouldn't that be a better alternative? And that's rhetorical.
Of course it would, because the Constitution is the basis of the nation.
Yes, but the political class doesn't think like that.
Well, they don't have to think like that. I mean, I've been in politics for almost 50 years, and no matter who I wanted to win for president, I understood that if the other guy won it, he was legitimate, and that's the way it goes. That's not the case now, and because Donald Trump has got too many clouds hanging over him. That's why I told you he's going to leave. The guy's a coward. The guy, even I served in the United States Army Reserve for six years, and I had a fractured back. Okay, this guy made up bone spurs, and he shirked his responsibility to serve his nation. He's going to do it again, okay, because he's going to be under so much pressure that he's going to consult with Kushner and consult with his kids and blame the media, blame the Fed. He's going to blame his own party, and he's going to go back to New York, making the deal that he doesn't get prosecuted and put in jail.
We're with longtime Republican, now political analyst Mike Edelman here on, I almost gave the wrong call letters. That happens once in a while on Radio Westchester. By the way, I thought of you the other day. I was covering a story up at the Pace Law School, and there's a building named after the guy you ran against for Congress.
Dick Ottinger.
Yeah, there's the Ottinger building. I says, I can't wait to tell Triple Bogey about this one. Okay. Where do we go from here? Do you think he gets impeached? And B, if we follow your line of thinking, will it be because of these second whistleblowers, or do you, because I don't think there are enough votes. I don't think the Republicans in the Senate will convict him. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think it's relevant whether he gets convicted or not. I think what is relevant is that the various House committees over a period of time, hold hearings and extract testimony from witnesses who have knowledge, and they reveal the extent to which this president is totally unfit to hold office. You see how quickly Republicans can turn on Donald Trump with the Kurd and Syria situation. They all came out and said, what are you doing here? You're throwing our friends to the wolves, including Lindsey Graham. So they can turn on a dime. Look, all of these Republican senators know he's corrupt. They all know it. They all can't stand him. They're all standing behind him temporarily because they're holding on to power.
That was my question. That was my question. As a lifelong Republican, you are well wired to the Republican community across the country. What do they say when they're not on camera, when there's no microphone?
They want them out. They want them out. They want to return to a situation where there's respect for the Constitution, respect for normalcy, respect for norms and institutions, and no financial interests abroad that conflict with the nation's interest. And that's what you're looking at. You're looking at a guy who's doing business deals on the phone late at night from the Oval Office, setting things up for when he leaves.
Do you really think, I'm always amazed at these super rich people. Do they think they're going to live forever?
For super rich people, it's about accumulating wealth and getting more than the next guy. It's a game. They're playing a game.
Yeah, I guess so.
So the question is $1 billion enough to live on without having to worry? Of course it is. It never has to do anything else, but it never ends. There's never enough. I was with I won't mention his name, a former ambassador riding around the state. He was worth $50 to $60 million in 1980. There was an article in the paper about a guy worth $300 million. He turned to me and goes, "Now that's money." Wow. There you have it.
I guess it is. Michael, thank you very, very much for weighing in. What do you see on the horizon? Before you go, one last question. What do you see on the horizon with the whistleblower scandal?
I see a second whistleblower with primary information, not secondhand, first-hand information that totally backs up exactly what was in the transcript and exactly what the complaint states, which is that Donald Trump asked a foreign power to help him out in the domestic political bring down of Joe Biden.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike Edelman,
You're
also
welcome.
known as Triple Bogey. We'll talk to you next
week. See you next week.
It is 7:32. We're going to share the weather with you, talk about some of our supporters, and then one of the people, believe it or not, who inspired why we do this kind of radio now is coming up next. Bob Cox, he is the managing editor and publisher of Talk of the Sound. Right now it's 59. We're headed to 68. Mostly cloudy. The temperatures will level off. I don't like this, though, tonight. 52. Yeah, I do, I guess. Mostly cloudy tonight. Temperatures about 52. Wednesday, mostly cloudy and breezy with scattered showers. The temperature 59 degrees. The wind out of the northeast 10 to 20 miles an hour. We're supported this morning by United Hebrew, also by Aging Issues Management, and Plug-in Virtual Reality. We'll bring it to your home. We'll bring it to your party, your wedding, or call us at 914-727-2726, and we will bring it to your event, or bring it here, right here. All the stuff we work with and that you can see if you're looking on Facebook or whatever. All this is on wheels, and we move it out, and we do virtual reality here. All righty, let's look at our next guest. He's worthy of getting to 2 minutes early. He is the managing editor, publisher of Talk of the Sound, has broken more stories than the major news outlets here in New Rochelle. Westchester in general, of course, but New Rochelle is his beat. Please welcome, and he's on mic too, Bob Cox. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob.
Not that you're on the bandwagon, but every week now when the Yankees win, you come in here with